Yes, Governor Evers is signing the budget that the Republican legislature passed, and we are proud of the fact that Governor Evers, after introducing an incredibly liberal document in January that we literally threw out and started over, that he is by and large signing a conservative budget today that was passed by the legislature. Now, as I listened to his press conference this morning, he really took credit for the good work that was done by the legislature. If it were up to Governor Evers, we would have higher taxes, we would have more spending, we would have an expansion of welfare, all at a time that Wisconsin just got through the pandemic, and that would be the wrong prescription. The legislature threw that out, and we are going to talk a little bit about the good things that we accomplished, and then hopefully the things we have left to do. So I'm going to start with Representative Whitkey, who will talk about some of the tax cuts and the impact on his veto today of the personal property tax repeal on small businesses just like this car wash that we're at today. Representative Whitkey?
Good afternoon. Representative Whitkey, representing the 62nd Assembly District. We're out here today to really emphasize what kind of businesses are going to be hurt if we don't go through with eliminating the personal property tax. We've heard from grocers, we've heard from restaurant owners, we've heard from small businesses like this that struggle, that want us to eliminate as much of the tax burden on them as possible. This morning I was at one of my favorite restaurants in my district, where the owner showed me he's had only $300 in receipts over the past week. So every single dollar that they can save to put back in their business, we should be bending over backwards to try to give to them. So I'm extremely disappointed the governor chose personal property tax to veto in what we've orchestrated so far this year. Thank you. Representative Skoronsky.
Good afternoon. I'm Carrier Representative Skoronsky. I represent the 82nd District, which is very close to here. We're talking about transportation today. We're very glad that the governor finally came to the table to support and approve the transportation funds for this year, but he's fell very short on the continuation for the next couple of years after that. We have to be continuous with our transportation. This is a very business road that just got done, so we're hoping that we can continue, but we're still short, and wish the governor would be a little more insighted in order to do that. So we just kind of keep working. We have a very good assembly and the Republicans in order to get things done. We're looking for more cooperation from the Democrats. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for coming to the 83rd Assembly District today. It's great to have businesses like Tyler's 3 generations of business here in the 83rd Assembly District. And I am Chuck Wickers, State Representative. This is my district. I would like to point out that the legislature worked very hard to put together a budget that the governor would sign, and it gave increases for school funding that will fund the schools for the next 2 years in a really big way. And the schools could take great advantage of that, and they can fill gaps that they've been wanting to fill for a while. We look forward to the next 2 years also for property tax owners to enjoy the property tax cuts, permanent property tax cuts that we, the legislature, gave to the governor to sign, and we're looking forward to the rest of the biennium to complete the budget by filling the gap for the personal property tax cuts as well. Thank you.
So in Governor Evers' discussion today, as I watched the press conference, it really was disappointing that he did not take ownership for the decisions that he made early on in the process, which would have raised taxes, expanded welfare, dramatically expanded the size of government. But at the end, after he was boxed in and basically forced to accept a Republican budget, he took credit for the hard work that we did. It's kind of like somebody who gets an assignment in college where you're supposed to do a group project, and at the very end, the guy doesn't show up throughout the entire semester, except on the last day, where he takes credit for the A grade that's given. And that's exactly what Governor Evers did today. He was forced to accept our budget. I'm glad that it's signed into law, but as my colleague said, there are dramatic errors in the budget. Some of the major vetoes that he chose to make, the program that we had wanted to put into place to say that you need to have drug testing to be on unemployment insurance benefits, so you're able to actually be employable and be drug-free. As my friend Representative Skoronsky said, the budget veto that said a permanent funding source for long-term transportation, which we put into the budget, that was vetoed. And lastly, the whole point of the personal property tax was to make it easier for the very small businesses that we see to be able to deal with the effects of the pandemic and get back on their feet. So overall, good budget that we were happy to pass. Glad that he signed the vast majority of it, but disappointed in the vetoes he exercised because they clearly aren't where the majority of the public is. So with that, happy to answer a couple questions.
Do you have any reaction to the 100 million additional that's not part of the state budget that we put in for schools?
Yeah, so Governor Evers, of course, has billions of dollars from the federal government that he gets to use as his personal piggy bank. In the budget that we passed, the average school district, of course, is funded by a per pupil increase. If you have 100 students or 1,000 students, it's just multiplied by the number of kids. The average increase in spending before the governor's investment was $3,000 per pupil in increased spending. So almost a 30 to 35% increase depending on the school district that you're in. So a massive increase. So I really feel like the extra $100 million is just really kind of covering his backside because he basically signed the entire budget as we proposed, and it was just a way to look like he could have an impact on education when it's going to be relatively minor out of a multi-billion-dollar budget.
Governor Evers said this budget isn't good enough for our kids, and Republicans quit it and should have done more. What's your reaction?
So he signed it. So obviously he believes that the budget that we passed was good enough to get his signature. I mean, we all know Governor Evers is a liberal. He really hasn't been outside the Capitol very much over the course of the past year. What we've seen is that we wanted to direct the resources to school districts that were open. The vast majority of the money that we had control over is going to districts where they were in person, providing the learning that kids need. We also know that there is a huge amount of resources that are going to K-12 education. So Governor Evers is just plain wrong. If you look at the facts, it's the largest per pupil spending increase in our state's history. And that is, I guess, not enough for a liberal from Madison.
I got one more here. We asked Governor Evers about your criticism that the governor is taking credit for the tax credits you proposed. He said that's ridiculous, and that you still can do the right thing, use money in state coffers for schools. Will you revisit the school spending?
No, I mean, the budget that we passed already has more than enough for K-12 education, and we think that's good. We were happy to support a good investment in public education. But the idea that Governor Evers is going to veto money that we put in the state savings account for a rainy day, he also vetoed a tax cut that would hit everybody every week to basically let the government have interest-free money for an entire year from the taxpayers of the state. I think those are both wrong decisions, but they're relatively minor if you look at the grand scheme of the budget. So I'm proud of the funding that we provided to schools. It's not going to go up, but I certainly am looking at the possibility now that the money's on the bottom line. Perhaps we can even do another tax cut. Okay, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Speaker.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, guys. Absolutely. Go ahead. Thank you. Nice to meet you again.
Yeah.
Hey, nice to meet you.